Okay, so we're gonna start with the Chiefs candidate. And I'm hoping, I don't see him. Jerry Boyer. I don't see him. So our next one is Robert Chiblo.
Bob, he's Robert. No one know who I am. Okay, I want to say Miigwetch for everybody coming out. I see mainly candidates here. Yeah, I want to say Miigwetch to Nora and Monica, the original nominators, and then Pooh and Shirley Kelly for nominating me the second time. And I want to congratulate and say thanks to everybody, all the candidates who decided to put their name in for this this tough job. It's not an easy job. You're going to be making tough decisions that are going to affect your community, maybe your own family. Those are some of the things that you're going to be charged with. For the chief candidates, again, like I said, you're going to be exposed to a lot of stuff that sometimes you may not want to know, but again, that's the role that we accept when we accept this job. One of the things you're going to be learning as you come into this role is you got to trust and you got to depend on decisions of your staff and your committees. Those are the ones who are actually doing the work out there. We council and chief, we're out supporting and advocating for our programs. Our program people are the ones that are going to let us know what we need to do to support them, to make them enable them to service you better. So you got to remember that we don't direct down, they direct us up how to support them. So you got to remember that we're going to be I can't make promises because I'm kind of probably at an advantage. I know that we're dealing with outside agencies, whether it's the governments, whether it's the other outside agencies, whether it's the courts. Our hands are tied in a lot of cases. People wonder why we can't do certain things. It's because, well, one thing we don't have is Jonia. We're at the mercy of the courts in certain cases. When it comes to housing, we have a housing shortage. When I came into office, some of the things that were priority, obviously, and it was not only for this, it was for previous councils before, was housing was an issue. How are we going to take care of the children? That was an issue. So I see a lot of talk about change. Change ain't going to happen just like that. You have to change the outside agencies you're dealing with, and that's a hard, slow process because a lot of them, don't want to change. They got us under their thumb. So we got to realize that, we're limited in our capacity for change. It's going to happen, but it's going to be slow. We'll talk about our child well-being. We're slowly moving into taking over the preservation role. There'll be some announcements soon regarding that. So change is happening, but some things are out of our control. Hopefully, with the annuities claims, that'll give us a little bit of leverage when we want to talk about making change. We'll have a little bit of Jonia to do that, take care of our housing needs and those type of things. So I'm glad that every single one here wants change. They want to do better to the community. So the annuities are going to give this next council that the leg up on that. So remember that you're making choices for the community that are going to last hopefully for future generations. Dealing with the we had Jordan Tutu come in the other last week for the National Addictions Awareness Week, and I'm going to say Miigwetch is guy for organizing that and putting that together. He made a good point when he talked. You have to take the good thing about our community is you got the choice to do whatever you want, whether it's a good choice or it's not the right choice. It is still your choice. Sometimes we're the ones that have to, council is the one that has to end up dealing with it. So remember that. You have the choice, make sure it's a good one. When you're electing your new leaders, because we're going to have a big turnover. We're going to have at least 4, probably 5 at least. So when we're making that turnover, make sure you make a good choice. Go with the people with experience, people with good hearts, but understand that we've got to deal with outside agencies. And that's what is making us, change doesn't always happen as quick as we want it to. And that's not gonna make everybody happy. I don't know how else to put that. You aren't gonna be happy. That's why when programs aren't meeting your expectations, we'll hear about it in council. We'll hear about it, and there's again, we got to support our staff, and we got to support our committees, because those are the ones that are making a lot of important decisions in the community, and it's our job to advocate and support them. So you got to remember that as well. Yeah. So take responsibility for yourself. Responsible for the community is what council is going to do. I've been when I first came on the council, I started with it was a steep learning curve. I had the same idea as you. We're going to change. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Until you start dealing with the outside agencies, and you know that that's not going to happen as quick as you want it to be, then you realize you can only do what you can do, and it's the staff that's going to let you know what they need to improve their services to the community. Yeah. So the learning curve, the first few months, you realize you're not going to please everybody, but you try, and council tries. Now, I've had the opportunity to speak on a national stage at AFN a couple of times, and got a few national a resolution passed supporting our Nisanong, our residential school survivors. So I have no problem speaking anymore. I'm confident. I'm proud that we have a great community, and I'm proud that you're going to elect the right type of leadership next week. So I'd like to be a part of that and continue on. My first couple of years, it's just been a learning experience. I don't think my job is finished. I like to be here for another term. So with that, I won't wait for them to give me the card, but I'll say Miigwetch, and expect your vote next week. Miigwetch.
Thank you. I should have mentioned this earlier, but we should have, sorry, we should have thanked Brian and the boys for coming in to do that prayer, and they did a good job on that drum. So little hand for the boys. So our next candidate for chief is Roger Miigwetch.
Do I get compensated for the 1 minute it took me to come up? Plus, I carry over Bob's 2 minutes that he finished early. Miigwetch, folks. This is quite an experience for me. I've had a lot of contemplating and smudging and listening to the elders that I've gotten close to, and challenging myself, putting myself to the test. I'm 74 years old. Can I still do this? And I turned that around to the positive. And the experience that I have picked up on my journey in these 74 years have done nothing but enlighten and improve my visions of what is out there and what is here in the community. I keep hearing the word change. I was on council a couple of times, and I heard the same voices back then. We want change. When I came home this last time, I was able to witness all the changes that have taken place. Some of it we take for granted when you live here day in, day out, you take for granted what is happening. But when I came home and I witnessed all the new changes that have taken place since I left, I was amazed. A lot of good things have happened. A lot of good things have transpired. And so it was beneficial for me to approach this with a whole positive attitude. And when I see all the changes that have taken place, I think it just puts more enthusiasm in me to, hey, we could do more, we could do better than this. And listening to the citizens, listening to what their needs. And to me, that is probably the greatest gift that I have is listening. I'm a frontline worker, and I get to hear those challenges on a daily basis. We want housing, we want better housing, and we want more jobs. And I heard that years ago. But they are happening. They are happening. When we look at the number of employees that are employed by the band, that is a good change, a good positive change. But I know we can do better because we have the enthusiasm. And when I see all the young people that are putting their $100 on the table, you know, you wouldn't have seen that 20 years ago. They would have left it up to the old timers. You guys do it. No, we see the young people. And you know something? I've said that my parents told me, stay in school, get an education, go out and learn how to survive in that outside world. And I did. And I projected that same with my own children. Go out and get an education. Learn how to survive out there because you're going to need it. And I'm sure every parent here did the same with their children. Now, all the young people have done that. And look at them now. They're in a position of leadership. You know, to me, those are gifts. Those are changes that I see and experience that really makes me proud to see those young people make those moves and are ready to stand up and make some changes of their own, because changes are made through vision. We all have a vision. And each one of the candidates here, I commend them for their visions. And collectively, I think we could put those visions in a really good place. And somebody asked me, well, what is your platform? When we get together as council and leadership and putting all those ideas on the table, to me, that's where the platform starts. You know, we have to get the information from past council. What did they do? What have they done? And continue on and not tear everything down and start rebuilding. You can't reinvent the wheel, but continue. I have faith and confidence in the previous council because they did a lot of good work. They wouldn't be there. But rebuilding that what they started and continuing and also exploring new initiatives. I was up north this summer and one of the Northern First Nations, Chapel to be exact. And I was talking with the leadership from Brunswick House and Chapel Creek, and they've taken a giant step forward. I think that's something we talked about 20-some years ago with the elders. Let's get back into revenue sharing. Let's start approaching these agencies that are extracting our water rights from the Missouri River. All those dams, how much money have they taken from our community that can be brought back? Let's explore those things here and create some new revenue. When I start asking questions, how much does it cost to run Missouri First Nation? I hear those numbers. I said, oh my goodness, where are we getting the money from? We're taking it from other pockets and using that. But I think the more we can generate and capitalizing on new monies coming into the community, you know, to me, that's what self-government is, when we can look after ourselves and bring new initiatives and new money and start collecting what is rightfully ours from our traditional lands that are being exploited. Our revenues are being taken. hey, we gotta put our foot down and start capitalizing on those. Hey, we got the annuities claim coming in. That's a big buzzword out there. But my last stop with the lawyers, they cautioned me, be patient, it's coming. Even though there's a couple of parts under appeal, that 10 billion is coming here regardless. And as soon as the minister gets back and signs those documents, 60 days from there, the cash will be made available to our for all the 21 First Nations. But we have homework to do here in this county. We got to get our numbers in place who the entitlements are. Who's entitled to the annuities? Is that also how is it going to be distributed? You know, those are things that the lawyers adamantly say that that's a community initiative, not chief of council. The communities will have to decide. They have to be part of it. So they're very steadfast in that. When I sat on the trust from 2010, I was at every court hearing and heard the evidence. One of the biggest things I got out of that was not all the money that we're getting back. It's what education we got out of it. All from day one, 2012, when the proceedings started, up to when the Justice Hennessy made her ruling, everything is documented. It's all digitally formatted. Stuff that we can bring back to the community. I have a daughter down in Oshawa. She's on the Board of Education, and which I gave her a copy of my digital proceedings, and she's transcribing that into education. And so they're going to be, and that's happening. They passed legislation last year on education where it's mandatory that they teach our culture in the classroom. The problem that's happening there is the teachers are not educated in our culture. We need more teachers out there, our own citizens teaching that culture. Teachers are, I got one bit left. Teachers, darn it. Teachers are, you know, they're not getting any training. So there's opportunities for retrainers and facilitators. Go on and teach them. Because, you know, that's our future. That's our foundation. And with that, I say, Miigwetch for this. You got me all jacked up now. Miigwetch.
Thank you, Roger. I'm glad I didn't have to pull you off the mic. So our next candidate is Deborah Mayer.
Bonjour, Deputy Mayor Krishnikwas, Mississauga Donjiba. Why am I choosing to allow my name to stand in the selection for the chief of Mississauga First Nation? My commitment to the community over the past, since I was small, has been ongoing. It's been a lifelong journey. My grandparents, Joe and Emma Boyer, they used to live where Christina Corbier lives now. And I remember being there most weekends, spending time with my brother Peter Bob and my cousins Al and Brian Miley, and we grew up together here. I grew up playing in this community with my mother, Peggy Basayo Bob, and my father, Peter Basayo. We didn't live here because when they married, even though they're both full-blooded Native people, when they married, my mother had to enfranchise. So we had to live in the, I always say, quote, unquote, white world. But we survived and we did well. But this community was always my home. I've lived here and moved back in 2005. And since then, I have, with my children, Laura and Michael. And since then, I've welcomed my son-in-law, Brian, from Nipissing First Nation, and 3 beautiful grandchildren, Leland, Teddy, and Elizabeth. Over the years, I've served the community in many jobs, from slinging beer at the local taverns delivering bread to Lena and Bill Boyers, as well as many stores in the town of Blind River, Iron Bridge, and Elliott Lake. I was all over the place with my then husband Doug. I worked at Loeb store, slicing meat and also making bread, which served the community members. I remember, them coming in and working with them. Then I moved to the North Shore Tribal Council, where I spent 15 years delivering employment and training programs for 7 First Nations along the North Shore. And I even worked here as band manager for a couple of years. It was a very interesting time. We won't go into that right now. I also served as a counselor here for 3 years when they, 2007, I want to say 8, 9. I worked at the community to develop their strategic plan 12 years ago. And then I moved into the position of education director. I recently retired from that position. And in running for chief, I wanted to make sure or continue to serve this community. From my work history, I have service, I have business, ownership, understanding. I negotiated with governments, overseeing millions of dollars in funding allocations for 7 First Nations, as well as our own under the education department. I have written contracts. I have written policies and procedures, interpreted legislation, spoke with 2 government audiences in various occasions, advocating for our people, our children. I've been involved in strategic planning for various First Nations organizations and understand the importance of having a roadmap to success. My experience working with First Nations as well as my own included being a board member with Nagdawindaman when I served on council, so I understand child welfare issues. A trustee for the for the Huron Superior Catholic District School Board. I resigned from that position. I'll be very honest. It was very difficult because, as some people know, maybe it's very difficult to change the education system there at the school board level. And working within the Catholic school system was just not, it wasn't working for me. It was hurting my heart. So I had to step back from that. I sit on I'm a long-term member of the Constitution Committee, the POWA. I ran the POWA for many, many years. And I've been involved with, as staff member, personnel policies, finance policies. I have been able to, during COVID, I was, as a staff member, I was asked to maintain the phone line that was available for on and off reserve community members who had concerns regarding COVID, regarding wanting to come home, being afraid. And I it was 24/7 for that, Monday to Sunday. And it was difficult, but I did that for a year and we got through that stronger, I think. In regards to strategic planning, I've worked with organizations such as the North Shore Tribal Council, Grand Council, Treaty 3, Chiefs, the Miigwetch Tribal Council, Oneida of Thames, Aboriginal Labour Force Development Circle, Batchewana First Nation, and many other First Nations here and within Ontario. I believe in our people, our resilience in the face of overwhelming odds, with residential schools, day schools, regular and provincial schools where our children are mistreated, considered as less than, and not allowed to flourish with adequate levels of education as afforded to other children. Because we are still here, standing is a testament to our strength, which we must build upon moving forward for our continued growth and success for the next 7 generations. Some of the issues that I'll just go through very quickly, again, elephant in the room, Robinson Huron Treaty annuities, right? Everybody's concerned about that. And we should really look at, I commit to bringing our community together, both on and off reserve, to talk about the Robinson Huron Treaty, to go through that history, to understand why we went to court for that, And how does it affect our community? How is it going to affect our community? How is it going to affect individual people? And what is that going to do for your life, right? And we have to figure that out. And at the end of the day, once we get all of that feedback and all that information, again, it is up to it is up to the community to decide. And chief and council have to support that. They have to understand our community has the voice and they have to support the community. Once we have all the pieces on the table and we understand it, hopefully we are able to move forward with advancing our own community on reserve so that we can improve our services here. But at the end of the day, it's your voice that's going to matter. Health and well-being is also of importance moving forward. There's going to be a lot of challenges in regards to health. As Chief Bob was saying, you know, governments are cutting back. Governments are not doing us any favors. And we have to make sure that our people are able to access health services in a good and positive way. And we need to do that through advocacy for our community members, and we need to support them. In regards to governance, we have so many policies on the table that we should be and will be following. They need to be updated, they need to be reviewed, and it needs to be a community understanding as to how we govern ourselves. We have to look at decolonization. We have to look at, we know how to do it and we can do it. And we have to stop listening to those government organizations that keep telling us how to do things. You have to do it this way. We have to start believing in our own selves. We have to start believing in what we can do. We know we have very smart, young, educated people, and we need their voice. And we have the elders who know that history. They know, right? In regards to housing, it's important. And we have to ensure that we have adequate housing if we want a successful community. Working with employment and training, if we want to provide employment and training, we do have to have housing for those people. In regards to drugs and alcohol, which is also a big issue, we need to ensure that our community, those who are willing to step up, get well, are there. We need to provide the services for them. We need to ensure that they are able to get those services that they need. At the end of the day, I commit to working with the elected individuals in a team-like environment, working on a strategic plan where everyone's voice is heard. And thank you very much for allowing me to come here, state my platform, and good luck to everyone. Miigwetch.
Thank you, Debbie. So our next candidate is James W. Morningstar. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us. And now the last one for our chief candidate is Brent Digano.
I'd like to start by acknowledging the drum. Thanks them for being here. May going to get doing man too Nishkas and Medodem. Rizali don't bomb Machi Sagi Ganishna Beck. I think most in the community know me. I was born and raised here on Mississauga First Nation. But if not, my name is Brent Niganab. My parents are Joanne, Jesse, and Russell Morningstar, and my dad was late Lawrence Larry Niganab and Alice and Eli Niganab. My wife is Giselle Niganab. I did leave the First Nation to attend post-secondary school. I attended in Peterborough, where I graduated from Sir Sam Fleming College with a law and justice degree. I also graduated from Trent University with a bachelor's degree in honors in Indigenous studies with a minor in sociology. While attending both college and university, I worked full-time as youth counselor to support my family. However, after graduating university, I chose to move back to the community with my wife, Giselle, and our 4 children. And I moved back because I'm proud of our culture and our community. And I wanted to give back to the community that allowed me to pursue higher education. It was an honor to serve on chief and council. I was re-elected for 2 terms, 6 years in total as a councillor. I'm truly humble and grateful for the community that trusted me to be in a leadership role. And while serving, I took the job very serious. When I was serving as councillor, I only missed 1 meeting in 6 years. While serving on council, I was able to work with both chief and council on passing important items, over 50 in my first term. And if elected, my first priority will be consultations on annual duties with the community. This will be a community decision, but the chief, as you know, only is 1 vote, so there's 9 other councillors that the chief needs to work with. And as stated, I have worked successfully with the past 2 chief and councils, and I think that's good because we're important items we have passed. One initiative that I successfully implemented was having an annual youth culture camp hosted by council. We had some councillors take youth on a canoe trip where they participated in culture activities like fishing, pipe ceremony, and sweats. I initiated this after a community meeting where community members have requested more land-based culture activities for youth. And I'm proud to say that we now have a permanent land-based camp for children and families at risk. I'm proud to invest in the community's youth, and it will be a priority for me moving forward. In my involvement in the last council, I focused on many important initiatives, like the Food Sovereignty Committee, where we reestablished wild rice on the First Nation, which I'm happy to say seeding took place in the late summer. This will hopefully provide a sustainable food and source for the community in the future. I also sat on the Code and Oswin Working and Technical Committee, where we're working on establishing our own child welfare law to enhance and enforce our inherent right and jurisdiction over child welfare on First Nation. Another initiative I'm proud to be part of is the repatriation of Mississauga First Nation artifacts that have been taken from our community in the past. With this initiative, we're also working on protecting our own cultural sites. I've also helped construct the community lodge, teaching lodge, and that's for community cultural programming. While serving on council, I was able to advocate for successful motions and bound council resolutions, such as laptops for students during COVID, which was important. I was also involved in 3 different hiring committee processes to make sure we are hiring our community members. I also worked on the government's manual changes, and that was to strengthen conflict of interest policy and outlining mandatory attendance. I advocated for the passing of the road maintenance and snow removal while developing a long-term plan to maintain roads and target long-term planning for repair and infrastructure. As a community, we do need to invest in the community and its members. To do so, we need to directly invest in our youth, families, and elders programming. We can build new housing. We do need a new subdivision. I mean, we have community members that are currently homeless. We also have overcrowding in homes in the community. We can build a new youth center, playground structures, and give children and families a safe place to enjoy. When we invest in the infrastructure and support it, we're investing in social mobility for all of the community. I believe we can do this. And I have evidence. I've worked in social services, and in 1 year with available funding, the social services department had created 16 million in capital in 1 year. This was available through funding, and it shows that building infrastructure for the First Nation is possible. I just want to go through some of my platform. For governance and jurisdiction, we can improve chief and council's communication plan. We need to communicate to the community better, and not just the community, but those living off the community as well. We need to enforce Mississauga's inherent right to continue the jurisdiction and continue towards self-determination. We need to work on building independence and stop funneling money and funds through external organizations. Community reporting and accountability is important. I worked on that the last term and this term, and we need to be more accountable. There's no reason for councillors to be missing meetings without no reason. We need to restart our monthly meetings with the community, and we need strategic planning. We need an actual plan for the community to move forward and that agrees on and with goals to focus on. For community focused programming and building infrastructure, we need to increase youth programming. We need to re-engage with the community's youth. We always talk about that they are their future, so we need to invest in them. We need a youth center. We had one when I was growing up. We used it for other things, but we need to rebuild another one. And I think study after shows that if you do and reinvest in youth and in programming for them, there's lower substance abuse and lower crime rates. And this can be same for family and parental programming. We do need to invest in elders program. We need to be with elders to plan and consult with them of their needs and wants, and just stop assuming that what they want. Community safety, we need more police presence in the community. Our First Nation has our own constables, and that's a request that we can easily make. We need to refocus and add to the drug strategy. With unquestionably, we need to continue to develop to enforce community safety measures. We continue to struggle with illegal narcotics being brought into the community and putting the community at unnecessary risk. Our community drug strategy is a living document, and it needs to be refocused, and it needs to be reprioritized and changed as we change. Prosperity and job growth. We need to refocus and continue to grow band businesses. We have successfully in refocusing our own source revenue, and we need to invest more in expanding that priority. We need to support our own band members' businesses, and we need to refocus and find ways to better support our partners in private businesses. We need to explore outside opportunities. Think Sky Canoe. There's potential there to be a leader and innovator of business ideas for the band. And I just want to, the reason why I'm running is because, you know, I grew up with my grandparents. I was fortunate enough to do that. They're around a lot, but they were always talking about waiting for progress and equality. And then growing up, I was fortunate enough with my dad was part of the land claims, and he was a big advocate, and he too always talked to me about the same thing. And for me though, I'm tired of waiting. We can do this now. We can invest now, and we can invest in the future, invest in our youth. And that's something that we need to take serious, and that's something that we need to do. I have no private interest to promote. If elected, I'll only be promoting Mississauga First Nation. And with that being said, Miigwetch, and I hope to have your vote on December 6th.
All right, we're going to start on the council candidates. And the first one up is Brian Zion.
Honey, I'm Brian. Kim, Kata, Derek, Kata are my parents. I belong to the Jackpine, Boyer, Bizayo, and Kata families. I've been a part of this community my whole life. I have the best intentions for this upcoming election and want what's best for our future. I understand if I'm elected, not all my goals will be achieved during the term, but I will try my best to move the membership in the right direction. Some of my goals: use funding to better our future in essential services, housing, creating jobs, ensuring all members have an opportunity to live and work on the reserve. Making sure our membership feels informed and part of the decision-making process in regards to the Robinson-Huron Treaty Fund. Have programs in place to help our members utilize their settlement through savings, investing, money management. Make off-reserve members feel like they are part of the community no matter where they live. Try to deliver the same services we see and benefit from here on reserve: student allowances, food security, traditional programming. I feel like this is the right time in my life to sit on council. I'm settled in my personal life and feel confident in my career and will be able to fill this role to the best of my ability. Miigwetch.
Thank you, Brian. Our next one, I'm gonna call up is Conrad Bobbins.
Ali. Probably will say, or Cormac, Dijika, this is our First Nation. You know what I'm hearing from these young people? I'm hearing a voice that they want change. And we know it's difficult. We know that we have to face the government. We have to face the local municipalities. We have to face the industries. But I can assure you, from my experience being an educator in 40 years and fighting with Indigenous Services Canada and different government agencies, that we can do this. There is no doubt in my mind that we can do this. I am very pleased to see all the young people here tonight voicing this concern of change. And how is this going to be done? Well, one of the first things we have to do, we have to do large community consultation. What can we do in the next 3 years that's going to make a difference, and that we can report back to the community that we have actions that have been done. It might be human resources, it might be housing, but we need to have documented stuff, not only for ourselves and our communities, so we can actively pursue funding almost at every level, provincial, federal, and now we have I'm seeing a great growth in the Canadian Indigenous economy, great growth in the tourism economies. You're already doing some of this stuff. I heard about the culture camp. That's who we are. 21st century thinking, we do it ourselves. Education. I've been in education. I know all these kids here that have went to St. Mary's or Blind Republic or the high school, and I've watched them grow up to become leaders, to become warriors of who we are as people. We have seen our people put out, we have seen our people pushed aside from jobs. But I'm asking you to stand up with change and stand up with the new chief and council. Put out realistic goals. Let's work on housing. Let's have some markers. Let's work on our health. Let's start a daily walking plan. Let's have a Bacanog and bingo, and bring community together. Community and all the communities I've worked with, the secret is bringing our communities, even people that don't get along, at the end of the night, somewhat get along. And we start to look at a common vision about who we are as people. We are Anishinaabe. We are the first generation of people that came to this area. In the springtime, our people with the Saginaw people and the people from way up by the Sheppel Creek, they used to come to the mouth of both rivers here. And they talk about change and what had happened over the winter, and about the passing of our people. And from that, I drew my inspiration that someday I would talk about it, and I would facilitate, and I would champion our people. My grandparents come from here, Ed and Lucy. And I spent a lot of time with my grandma. And I got to know Dan Boyer, and I got to know Big John. All those people have fished. So my role is going to be as a facilitator, if elected, as a mentor, and help to develop community consultation. We have a vision statement, right? Make that into a strategic plan for 3 years and a master plan for 3 years. This is what we have to do. So I would encourage all of you to think about the next 3 years, what we have to do. We have the people here to do it. So let's do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Conrad. Our next councillor candidate is Sherry Boyer, and I believe she is not here. So our next candidate is Sheila Boyer.
Ani, bonjour. My name is Sheila Boyer. I am the granddaughter of Julia and Ernest Morningstar. My mom is Diane Boyer and my father is Byron. I wanted to thank the nominees for nominating me. I do want to say I am very grateful to have learned our traditions and our culture, our ceremonies. It's helped me tremendously. I'm super grateful that us Native Ojibways, and I'm just super grateful we haven't lost that. It is amazing. And I really feel strongly that we really need to prioritize the healing within the community. So we can bring us back together. Like, there's so much division. I've been here for almost 10 years now, and like, there's so much division in our community, and it's really sad to see. I know we all been through traumatic events in our lives. Some may have not, and others have just had the trauma passed down. And until I started my healing journey, I did not see how I acted until I started working on myself, and then I was able to acknowledge. And it's super sad to see like so many faces that are, it's just sad faces. And I would love to see more happiness in the community and more togetherness. And I'm here. I'm not here for myself. I'm here to be a voice for the community. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware. It's not the chief and council that has the final say. It's actually the members. And you just need to come together and, you know, make plans for a better future for everyone, for our future generations. And I'm super nervous right now, but I'm honored to be here, and I just want to be a voice to help the community. And I don't try to be better than anybody else. I just try to be better than who I was. And I'm super grateful to learn about our culture and traditions. It's got me through some difficult times, and I'm forever grateful. And I just want to say Miigwetch for your time. Miigwetch.
Thank you, Sheila. Our next candidate is Shauna Boyer Massage.
Good evening. My name is Shauna Boyer. My spirit name is Gijibaswa Ikle Deshikas Misali Donchba. So that means Soaring an Eagle Woman, and my clan is Eagle Clan. I'm very honored to stand here before you and accept the nomination for council. I have sat on council in the past. It's been a few terms, but since then I have done a lot of growth, a lot of learning, and continued my work for our community, not just here in Mississauga, but in Ontario. Prior to that, like 10 years ago, I lived in Nova Scotia. I had a really, really great experience living there and really being a part of that culture, Mi'kmaq culture, and how much pride they take in their language. And so that's kind of like what I want to build here in our community, is making sure our youth and our community members know how much pride, or take so much pride in like our language, and being able to even just speak it, introducing yourself, Bindigan, come in, you know, just using small words that we can just move forward with that and taking pride in our language, because that was taken away from us when our families went to the residential schools and the kids never came back home. I want to lead into a little bit about like my education. I have a advanced diploma in public relations from Cambrian College. I graduated in 2007. I graduated from the Cody Institute at St. Francis Xavier with an Indigenous woman in community leadership. That's where I learned a lot about assets and communities and how they can work together and how they could build up a nation and how communities could use the resources that they have in order to like strengthen themselves and really work more as a community. I really believe in that our community has all the answers that we require to move forward with the changes that we are trying to make here in our community. I think that we have very knowledgeable and inspirational and educated people here in our community who can help and support that movement. And it's not just about leadership, it's about everybody and making sure there's more inclusivity, including like officer. You know, you see the people in the community Facebook, the grassroots community Facebook, and they have a deep desire to be involved and contribute to our community. And I think that that's an asset that we can tap into in order to support our community growth and development. Currently, I work at Miigwetch and the North Shore Tribal Council as the communications officer for the Cognoswin Child Wellbeing Project. So we have done some work in Mississauga, but the whole idea behind that is that we have an inherent right. We have our own ways of raising our children, and it's not the provincial way of doing things. It's not the Canadian way. We are our own nation, and that's what we need to take deep pride in. I grew up here. My mom raised me here. I ran the streets till late at night and got in trouble, and like she really instilled a lot of good values and work ethic into me. And she always said, whatever you put into something, you get back. And so I've always like tried to really work hard and like really motivate myself into going into the right direction and right path. However, like I'm like anybody else, I've made many mistakes and I'm proud to own them. I don't stand before you to say that I'm perfect. I stand before you to say that I'm human. And I do want to be a voice on our council to lead our community in the right direction. Miigwetch.
Shauna. Our next candidate is Denise Boyer-Payette.
Hi, everybody. Okay, we're gonna start now. I'm a little bit nervous and I don't know why, because I love to talk. So my name is Denise. I was gonna do my introductions in the language. So Wabe Gunis because Maingan Dodum, Anishinaabe and Dow, and Mississauga Donjaba. Oh, sorry guys. Ooh. So a little bit about me. My parents are Rachel Boyer and Lawrence Payette Sr. My grandmother was Janet Boyer Baugh, Doris Payette Baugh, and I do have my grandfathers, Dennis McCollum Baugh, and also another one, but I'm just gonna leave that one. I went away to school like a good student and good role model that I've always tried to be. I first have to thank the community because the community has always guided us as young people. We were guided and told what we should be doing. We were asked what we wanted to see in the community. And that question always not stumped me, but it kind of left me like, oh, like you're putting a lot of pressure on us as young people of what we wanted. And, you know, we would share what we wanted and it didn't always show in real time. So anyways, I'm losing myself here. But one thing that they always we were always told was that we each have our own gifts. And mine is, believe it or not, communication. I like to talk. I get a little nervous when it's a little bit more formal. I do like more of an informal setting. But I also like listening, and I really like listening these last 3 years to everyone that I served alongside council, and also to our community, and anyone who wants to sit down and have a cup of coffee or come stop by for a visit or chat. Like, I would just listen to what everyone had to say, because everyone has gifts, and we've always shared this, but you don't always see it portrayed in our community. So when I went away to school, I took communication studies. I also minored in Indigenous studies. I also have a graduate certificate in public relations. During this time, I got really excited in political science and learning our histories, specifically our histories in Indigenous rights and political science and political resistance from our communities, which ultimately brought me home in the first place when I finished. We have a wealth of knowledge here in our community, and I just wanted to know more. So yeah, my formal education taught me a lot of things, such as strategic planning, communication planning, environmental studies. There's a lot of things that I learned and did to ensure that I was a well-rounded individual. And when I returned home, the first thing I started to do was volunteer. So I volunteered for Mississauga Nation Gathering, where I got to see like nation building in real time, which was super exciting to me. And it made me really excited to be a part of our community and to ensure that I was giving back to our community, as well as sharing history. So we have a lot of people who have a wealth of knowledge. And I'm very honored to have had the time to sit down and listen to what a lot of people were saying. Wow. I'm inspired by a lot of women in our community, women in my family, who always are open to share their knowledge. My experience as a counselor. So I sat on a lot of our internal committees, such as Housing, Lands and Resources, ECDEV, for a portion of my time, and as well as powwow. Housing, we've made a lot of difficult decisions, but we did a lot of policy updates. It's not a very easy committee to be a part of, because we do have very limited resources that we have to share with our community. And it's all about making the right decisions and with the best that we can do at the time. And then also with Lands and Resources, we have a dedicated community volunteers. Through this time, I also got to sit with the Mississauga Park Foundation, where we had negotiations with the government, relationship building with our neighboring communities, as well as sitting on the North Shore Travel Council board, and also assisting with the development of our Hydro One working group. I think I'm done. Thank you very much.
Our next candidate is Shania Boyer-Farragon. Okay. And so that leads us into Jubilant Sky Kada.
Good evening. My name is Sky Kada, and I'm honored to be running for council. My want is to see that our community is healthy and prospering. We need to be the change that we are asking for. It will take all of us to bring this community forward. For us to break cycles, we need to first look within ourselves to understand the hurt that we've been dealt and to realize that we're projecting it onto the next generation. We've lived with this hurt for far too long now that has become the norm for most of us. Let's immerse ourselves in the culture and saturate our community with the language and ceremony so that this can be our new norm. This has been proven to be an effective method to bring culture back within many different nations already. I would like to see more culturally driven programming for the community. Let's start monthly socials where we have potlucks, drumming, and dancing. We can start providing weekly Anishinaabe mowing classes to help bring back the language. I want more land-based camps happening, make it a place where people can come and participate and learn. We have a wealth of knowledge within our community that we can tap into. We can start teaching survival, hunting, trapping, and fishing skills. We need more elder engagement. We could be preparing meals monthly and invite a different elder to our community to come out and share their wisdom with us. We can bring back the trips with the elders and the youth to try and create those bonds and help bridge these gaps. I want to develop more programming for our children to help them develop into respectable members of society capable of succeeding in every venture, whatever they attempt. We can teach them coping skills, mindfulness techniques, basic skills such as budgeting and meal preparation. We need to send them off to conquer the world and create opportunities that we never had. It will take the help of every department to ensure that our children have every opportunity to develop into the best versions of themselves. Remember, when our youth succeed, it brings prosperity and notoriety to our community. It shows that we care and are willing to do what it takes to ensure our children's futures. We can find more ways to help bring opportunities to families and ensure the basic needs for their children. Food sovereignty is a great start. If we can continue to provide the fruits and vegetables from the community garden, this would help out with the outrageous cost of food. We should take an active interest in bettering our people to ensure that not only do they feel like they belong here, but that this is a community that is a good place to raise their future family. Be that helping hand up. I'd like to ensure that the elders and youth are consulted as we understand, so that we understand their perspective on every situation. I want people of all ages to feel that they have a say to what happens in our community. We all live here, and if people feel validated, then the sense of belonging is nurtured. Both on and off reserve members should be able to have their voices heard, and we can do this through interactive meetings, surveys, and making ourselves accessible to all. We are facing a housing shortage. We have too many people left without a permanent residence of their own. We will need to look for new opportunities to provide adequate and safe housing. More money needs to go towards repairing and ensuring that our houses that we have are still in good standing. When it comes to the Robinson Huron Treaty money, I feel that the funds that were destined for infrastructure should be used to maintain our community. It is my belief that the elders should be entitled to have their money so that they can enjoy what should have been theirs all along. As for the rest of the money, I believe people are more than capable of deciding what they should do with their money. A sense of purpose goes a long way. Let's start empowering our people. I, for one, would like to get back to doing everything with kindness and without judgment. I thank you again for taking time to listen to me. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sky. Our next candidate is Jonathan Queta Durero.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. This has been a long journey for me coming up to this stand because of the way that I'd like to sort of take on the opportunity to learn from those that came before me and those that, you know, have previously sat on council. And so prior to accepting the nomination for this election, I think one of the things I really like to focus on was, you know, what role am I prepared to play for the community? And so I'll start off a little bit by just explaining a little bit of my background. So I come from the Queta family. I'm also related to the Boyers and the Chiblos in the community. And I also have a French family, the Dueros, who I've also lived very close to the community, who I have done some work in the past several months trying to bring to light the Native history and a Native background that that family has with Mississauga First Nation. And I think a little bit of that has definitely opened up my mind about with the work that we need to do when we're trying to understand who our people are. The ones that acknowledge themselves as part of Mississauga and the ones that are still trying to find a way to be a part of our community. And so those are things that resonate with me when I'm thinking about our officer community members that are really, you know, trying to find ways to connect. Like, you know, they're connecting on virtually through Zoom because they live far off. And those are things that, you know, I wish they could be here tonight. I know they wish they could be here tonight. And so back to what I offer to the community in this election. I've spent my working career in communications. And so in communications, the idea is that you want to be able to share a story without becoming a part of it. And I failed at that. The more I learned about Mississauga First Nation, the more I learned about the Anishinaabe Nation and all of the 39 communities that are a part of the Anishinaabe Nation. I learned about all the successes that these communities have had and a lot of the barriers that they've faced. And a lot of the common themes around that is the togetherness that the community members have with one another. And so that sort of like awareness really did attract me to the idea of figuring out how can we develop solutions for ourselves so that we can find ways to prosper. And so that work ultimately led me into policy development and youth leadership, where it was about taking apart, you know, strategies that have worked past, strategies that have failed, and understanding why. And I believe another candidate brought it up earlier this evening that, you know, our policies, you know, are kind of put in front of us. And so we've never really had a chance to dictate our own success. That has been done by the government. So with the work of the Constitution that our community adopted several years ago, it's given us an opportunity to really look outside that container so we can explore what new success looks like, new pathways for leadership to dictate the future direction of our community. One of the things that I became very enamored with, again, throughout my work career was, okay, when we understand what our opportunities are, how do we activate them? And, you know, my sort of conversations with people at the time was on economic development. So what I did was, you know, get investment, went to school. I learned about all of those things that matter to Northern Ontario and to Northern Ontario First Nation communities. And so that is what I've been doing for the last several years. One of the things that we have to do is we have to build up leadership. And that is what I do today. And I think everybody in this room, to some extent, can say that, you know, we've had an intimate conversation that's, you know, acknowledged that we have that work that we need to do with one another. And so I'm here to, you know, say that if I get in as a council-elect, I would be ready to move those conversations forward and find ways to help our community members become leaders today and for tomorrow. Thank you for taking time to listen to me tonight. I look forward to seeing your votes on the 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next candidate is Annette Chiblo.
Ani, everybody, I'm just, I've got a few things jotted down here that I want to talk about tonight. I want to say miigwetch to the ladies that nominated me for a counselor position. I never thought that this would ever happen. I never dawned on me that people were watching and curious and wondering and saying, you know what, she might be good. She might do the job. You know, she might have some ideas. So miigwetch to those ladies who took a chance and put my name out there for this. And now it's up to me to do a little bit of work, okay? And so this is part of my job. Coming up here and expressing to you why I would be a good counselor for Mississauga First Nation. And to work within the Chief and Council's umbrella. I was sitting back there and I was listening to everybody that spoke already ahead of me, and there's a lot of really intelligent people here who have done this role many, many times in the short lives that they have. I'm going to be an elder in a few years, right? I'm 57. And there's so much knowledge within just these young people that are here already that have already spoken. So, you know, miigwetch for all of your words, your good words. I was gonna, like, I have all this stuff written down, but I was sitting there thinking about how I want to share, you know, what it was like for me to come back to Mississauga and to work here in this community and what that experience was like for me. It wasn't a very pleasant experience. It wasn't a very good experience for me. I witnessed a lot of lateral violence. I was victim to lateral violence within the community and band office and within the work atmosphere. That's one of the things I think that needs to be addressed. And as a counselor, I think that I would be good to be able to share my experience about those things and how to make changes in that aspect, in that small little part of what this whole First Nation is all about. And I keep hearing all these things about people talking about how they want to make changes and transparency and being informed and informing people and community. That's all great and wonderful, but what are these changes that we're going to be doing that are going to be beneficial to the community financially, individually, within the groups, within the committees? There's a lot of work, and I understand that. And I understand too that, you know, there's a lot of struggles going to be faced through the government, provincial, federal, all those things that we have as First Nations have to deal with. I was a little bit discouraged when I heard, you know, you know, it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, and nothing's going to happen overnight. And I get that, I understand that. But I also understand that if somebody who wanted to own, say, a French fry trailer and wanted to make a business out of that, did that person listen to those negative feedbacks from other people telling them, no, you can't do that? Did that gas station person that owns that gas business down the street, did he listen to those people that said, no, you can't do that? It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot of problems. You're going to have to do a lot of work. That's the kind of information that I keep on hearing. And that's the kind of information that needs to be squashed by anybody, not just me, but anybody who's in chief and council who's going to be elected in here. It doesn't have to be me. It's whoever's going to be elected. Those are the things. I think that if it has to start here in our house. This is our house. The band office is our house, right? And all these workers that we have, those are the children. And chief and council, that would be like mom and dad. How is mom and dad treating their children within that household, within that building, those structures? So that's my message that I want to give. Did you give me the yellow paper yet? No. Okay. I wasn't sure what I saw. Okay. So yeah, so those are like like I said, I have these things written down, and if I'm picked as one of the counselors, I'm sure that I will do my best. I know I will do my best to put forward what's best for the community as a whole, not just the individual. Whether it's through the RHT, whether it's through the Kugnoswin Law Initiative, I know about all those things, but I didn't learn that from here. I learned that from my work. I work in Serpent River as a frontline in child welfare, so I know a lot of that stuff that happens in First Nations. And one last thing, I just want to say, hell no, status quo.
Thank you, Annette. Our next candidate is Crystal Chibbles.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Crystal Chibolo. I just wanted to start off alongside my father, Max, and my late mother, Della. She's down, smiling down at me, probably laughing right now, but my background education is business administration. I'm currently working on a Serpent River First Nation as the Newsonog community manager, which I deal with the residential schools from Serpent River, Sagmook, and Mississauga. I think working in that capacity at the moment is dealing with a lot with elders, intergenerational trauma. I hear a lot from the elders and things they'd like to see changed in our communities, including the youth. I also went to Serpent River as the COVID-19 manager, and I learned a lot there, knowing like I had to take care of policies and procedures for 400 staff. I made sure that the safety precautions were in place for everybody along the North Shore that Miigwetch services. I think growing up in this community, I had a lot of mentors. I see a lot of mentors here in our community who taught me a lot, and I want to be that mentor myself to the younger generation. I've sat on a lot of committees, health and social services, trust. I was a trustee since I was 30, so it's been 14 years. Sat on the membership. I think working for chief and council for the last 4 terms, learned a lot in the background. Communication, that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to know what's happening in the community. I think bringing back those BCRs that were passed, letting people know what's going on and not leaving anybody in the dark. I think community engagements are really important to hear what's going on in our community. I'm a real big team builder. I like to pull strengths from everybody here has strengths, everybody in our community. And I think working together, we'll all come to a common goal. I like to collaborate, network. I think I'm fair, accountable, and I'm not afraid to use my voice. At one time, I was really scared to use my voice, but now I'm not. I just want everybody to be empowered in this community. I want people to speak up and like address the needs that we need to address, and all of us have great ideas. I think working with the residential school survivors, bringing back culture is really important. The drug strategy, we all know there's a problem. It's right across the board. If we give people meaningful opportunities and they build their lives, we have to empower them as well. The housing issue, there's a lot of good people around here who have ideas, and I think taking strengths from people is going to be really important. And not everybody has the answers to everything, so I think just really bringing people together is going to be important. As the trust, sitting on the trust, we make good decisions about investments to help people, help community members children with braces, children with people with medical needs, we're able to help them. I just think like the community events, appreciating our staff. Like, there's lots of good workers out there. I think a little appreciation goes a long way. Lots of kindness things. I went to Miigwetch and I did a week there. It didn't cost us nothing, but there was lots of people who appreciated being acknowledged. I think acknowledgement goes a long way. And again, I think just community events, you know, I took initiative a lot during COVID. I was the Easter Bunny. I do follow my dad's footsteps and, you know, bringing joy to people. And I think teaching my children that as well. They're like, today I got a message that said, you know, they're good people. So I think that's what we all strive for our children. So I think being a good example, and I think if I get elected, like I will be that mentor for our generation and just show people that, you know, stand up and use your voice, and that's all anybody really wants. So, yeah, I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Crystal. Our next candidate is Aaron Chibble.
So, I mean, Erin Chivil is my name. Nisha Pradishkas Mashkanosha Nadodam Mizozani. My spirit name is two women. It means an old woman and a young woman. And I'm from the Pike clan. In my journey throughout my life, finding out who I was, my spirit name is old woman and a young woman, was always a balance of finding the balance between being wise and also being young and being fun and laughing and not being too serious. And in that, like I've been able to find my voice and who I am as an Anishinaabe. As part of the Pike clan, one of our main roles is to be a mediator. So you know, sitting on council, that's I feel my role is to look at all different sides of situations and ideas and what's the best way to move forward, and so that everybody else's voice is heard. I was raised in the community, and I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, which gave me a love for the land. And those are some of my fondest memories that carried me through my life when times got hard. I quit drinking when I was 18 years old. I was sober for 20 years. And, you know, in that, you know, sometimes you struggle and sometimes you fall. Whether that's through addictions or your own health or challenges that life throws at you. And it's my culture that kept me grounded through all of those life's challenges. And that's why I'm so passionate about culture and language for the children, because giving them that solid foundation will help them to thrive in whatever they choose to do as they move forward in their lives. I have a background in education and early childhood education and special needs. I worked off the community for 20 years. I worked in Toronto in private sectors, public sectors, as well as for Indigenous organizations. And all of those experiences gave me opportunities to see different ways that organizations work, different management styles, and what works and what doesn't. And not everything works for every organization or every team. I had an opportunity to work with Ojibwakan, which is a new program that was launched. And their mandate was food sovereignty, cultural identity, and early learning. And so when I went in, there was a lot of challenges within the workplace. And we took a step back and revamped the way that they work to work as an effective team and utilizing each and every person's in their individual skill sets, because they were all different. And I feel like that's an important part in management, is recognizing that not everybody has the same strengths, and looking at a strength-based approach to help our workers feel like they are empowered and that they're valued. And that goes for every person in the community. I have a lot to share in such a short time. But before I get caught off, the one thing that I want to make sure that I'm able to mention tonight is, you know, sitting on council, we all have an opportunity to share our skill sets and our knowledge. But as 9 people sitting on a council, it's hard to implement that change because there's a lot of work to be done. And we have a lot of skills, and people now have degrees and education in all different areas. And so how do we take everyone's knowledge and skill sets and work together? And as 9 people sitting on a council, you know, it's next to impossible to know everything as one individual or 9 individuals. And it really requires each and every person in our community to stand up in whichever way they choose to, whether it's in language or culture or education. It might be land, it could be crafts, and standing up and being part of the change, because together we can do it, but alone we can't. I have a lot of other things that I'd like to talk about, but I'll just leave it at that. I am currently working on some mental health programming and children's programming, both in the language, but also in mental health. I'm working with a psychotherapist who's a child play therapist, as well as a creative arts therapist, a dance instructor, and she has a bunch of different modalities. And it's really exciting to be able to do this work with her and develop programs that are actually already paid for. And it's free. So there's lots of solutions. I'm a creative person. I hope that if I get elected, that I can bring that creativity and the vision that I have and the ideas collectively with other people's experience. Thank you. Miigwetch.
Thank you, Erin. Our next candidate is Matthew Chiblo.
Bonjour, 66 bis, qu'est-ce que c'est que go do them, the way in the started off. You know, I was thinking about, with some humor that, I should have worn my, Johnny Cash t-shirt, says, don't take your guns to town. Cause I did that a lot of times when I was younger. My family name is, George Gizik. My father was, the one that brought sobriety to here in our community. He was the one that helped bring the culture here. He was the one that built that first sweat lodge who brought that sweat lodge here was a guy by the name of Ken Dennis from British Columbia. And this guy was a very humble man. He only walked with his pawagan and a change of clothes and these things. My father, you know, I was born, raised here too. I was baptized. I was raised Roman Catholic, like my parents before me and my grandparents. When my father brought in the culture, started bringing in the culture, that's the first time I realized it was after that I was, after I sobered up and started following his way. You know, I don't come here with a wealth of knowledge, book knowledge of graduating from a university or anything else. I graduated from the University of Hard Knocks. That's living life as it is in the community. As a recovering alcoholic, as a drug addict, and I lived three quarters of my life, or well, two-thirds of my life as in recovery. You know, I really don't know, you know, what I have to offer except for that life's, that what I learned in life. I don't make no promises because I'm not really a politician. I'm here because I have some concerns. And my issues are the same issues that everybody else has here in this room. And, you know, if I happen to be elected, you know, my life today, I live along these spiritual lines, these teachings that I have as a spiritual man, Anishinaabe man, and I don't claim to know everything. No. There's a lot of people here in this room that are a lot younger than I am. 70 years old. I drive a handicap bus, and I'm pretty much older than all the elders that I'm driving around. So it's about time for me to retire, I think. And I only got 1 minute left, so there's a lot of humor, like when I drive those elders around, I hear their concerns. And, you know, I have a lot of fun with them. And they love my music, so, anyway. If you don't vote for me, but just vote for my music anyway, please. Okay, Miigwetch.
Thanks, Max. Our next candidate is Chance Council.
Ani Bojo, Chance Fish the Cause, Misagi Donjaba. Hello everyone, my name is Chance Council. If some of you don't know me, I'm the son of Claudette Boyer and Gary Council, the grandson of Florence and Leonard Boyer, and the great grandson of Louis and Ella Boyer. I spent most of my life growing up. I spent most of my life growing up in and around Mississauga First Nation. I went to the daycare here as a child. I worked for public works throughout my whole high school career. One time as a library technician and got let go from. I was fortunate enough to be funded by the First Nation to go off to college. I went to Niagara College for carpentry techniques, and I graduated and completed my apprenticeship. I've worked in Sudbury, I worked in Huntsville, and then ultimately I came home to start my own company here. And I'm proud to say that I do lots of work here on the First Nation. I'm sure a lot of you know. And I'm really proud to be making a difference at that level, a tangible difference. Sorry, I'm really nervous, so I'll be stumbling over a lot of my words here. I'm also enrolled in a 4-year public administration governance program with Ryerson University, now Toronto Metro, in conjunction with FNTI. I've completed the first 2 years. I do it in my evenings and weekends. And within that program, we learn a lot about policy writing. We learn a lot about the government of Canada, how they act. And I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of great people from the Mississauga First Nation, like Curve Lake, people from Nunavut and ITK. And what we're all talking about is the same thing, whether it is Curve Lake, whether it's in Nunavut, it's that same problems are housing, drug addiction, not enough funding for tackling these problems. So, and you know, as an officer band member, I understand these frustrations a lot because we want to move back to the First Nation. We want to hire more people to work at the band office, but we need a place to house those people. We need to give them an opportunity to come back and to feel safe in their community. And that starts with tackling the drug problems, the violence, and that starts with community outreach, funding for those kind of programs, and just reaching those people. In regards to off-reserve members, we need to, I think 2/3 of all Mississauga First Nation live off-reserve. So we need to be able to reach them. And I think Nora did a great job of setting up the grassroots Facebook page, and with Zoom, we can do that. In regards to the Robinson Huron treaty annuities, I think the first thing we need to do is do community consultation when we find the final number for that. And we also need to, like many others said, stand up for not only our First Nation, but our people. And we have to remember that we are a First Nation, and that means nation to nation talks. If that's with the provincial government, the federal government, revisiting the memorandum of understanding with Cameco. I mean, there's lots of opportunities to secure more funding that doesn't have to come from basically doesn't have to come from federal government. We have a lot of power in our own community right here. Land leasing opportunities. Following that note, with the feds, they're always trying to cut back, so we need to engage with Ontario Union Ontario Indians in regards to non-insured health benefits, make sure we're getting the money to pay for dental, pay for prescription glasses, pay for prescription medical, because the feds aren't gonna just give us more funding every year. They're gonna try to take until we stand up for ourselves. So I think that is very important, and to make it a priority to connect with our off-reserve members, and that if elected, I'd be committed to doing quarterly visits at First Nation friendship centers in hubs, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Thunder Bay, Toronto, and to make sure that we are hearing their concerns and bring them to the chief and council table. I only have 1 minute left, and I think it's so I just want to say, thank you much for listening. Miigwetch. Miigwetch.
Our next candidate is Gloria Miigwetch.
The Misagi First Nation Band Office. They are not just employees, but they are the workforce that we invest in. We must find better ways of supporting our workforce investments and equally protecting the working relationships within our workforce. And we can do this by using more Anishinaabe-centered approaches on how we relate to one another. I strongly believe that long-lasting and sustainable change on any issue or challenge starts with thinking differently and acting differently. We live in an environment that is different than it was 15 years ago, and solutions to our community problems could best be reflected in current times. In the release of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report, we saw 94 calls for action. The Canadian public started learning more about the historic wrongs that impacted our families and communities. In the discovery of the 216 unmarked graves found on the grounds of a residential school in BC, the Canadian public started to learn more and develop a greater understanding of these historic wrongs. Now more Canadian people, as well as national, international, and private organizations, companies, industries, institutions, agencies, and advocacy groups want to act on their deeper understanding by partnering with First Nations and Indigenous organizations to help right these historic wrongs that is known as reconciliation. Although not new to Misagi First Nations and Aboriginal organizations who have partnered with interested organizations, institutions, and companies for a while now, the opportunities for new and non-traditional partnerships have increased significantly. As I stated in my election platform, inclusive engagement with our First Nation members residing on our reserve and those who live away from the community, progressive partnerships, collective teamwork, and leveraging new technology is a process for real, sustainable, and long-lasting change. My goal, if elected, will be to continue the process of sustainable change in the area of health and social services. In the social services team's progressive partnership and relationships with the North Shore Tribal Council Child Welfare Development Initiative called Cognasawin, Nagda Windamin's Canadian Human Rights Tribunal Prevention Program, and with the Rocky Bay First Nation, we are starting to hold open discussions with our membership around the development of our own child welfare law and our own child welfare program or agency. If you'll recall, in the Truth and Reconciliation report, the first call for action is changing the child welfare system within our community. It is the right thing to do. In our progressive partnership with ISK and our relationship with Garden River Child and Family Services Program, we secured additional resources to hire more staff to work with children from 0 to 6. We have a youth worker for the younger youth from ages 7 to 13. We have a youth worker for ages 14 to 17, and we have a youth advocacy worker for youth ages 18 to 25. New digital arts and design companies such as Indatech with the Indigenous Friends Association, the virtual reality gears that new apps and technology will enable us to effectively connect and work with all our First Nation youth, as well as connect our youth and our community members with leading tech companies and opportunities to develop these new partnerships. There are many social issues within our First Nation. We have drug trafficking. We know we all have drug and alcohol misuse. We have a problem with the lack of adequate shelter for many of our elderly men. We also have a very aging population. We need to start addressing those issues around making sure that we have nursing beds, we have palliative care beds, we have elders wanting to come home and to die among the family members. We need to treat them with a dignity and providing those services that they also need. There are many, we have partnered with the National Indigenous Circle Against Family Violence and the federal and provincial government to start exploring new programs, services, and capital housing projects with the Mississauga Women's Shelter. There are many new and exciting opportunities for Mississauga First Nation to partner with many private companies and agencies to grow services in all our areas: sports, recreation, music, industries, everything that's out there. There are many partners willing to work with us. To make sustainable change, we must all work hard and we must work together because we all do care about our community and we want to see progress. We want to see happiness. We want to see healthy families. And we want to make sure that we have a membership that's inclusive of everyone. Miigwetch and Nyawa to all the candidates, thank you for your bravery for running. Miigwetch.
Thank you, Gloria. So our next candidate is Gregory Miigwetch.
Ani, Joe. I'd like to acknowledge the people that are out in TV land. How do you guys? Yeah, I just like to give you guys a little bit of history of myself. Okay, I'm a proud member of Mississauga First Nation, where I've been resided for large part of my life with my wife Joan and my adult children Megan and Thomas, and one of them is still living at home. Hopefully he finds somebody something in a way, but not serious. Okay, and I spent over 20 years working as a PSW at Golden Birches and Blind River until I retired a couple of years ago. This provided me with a lot of compassion in working with the elderly, and currently work part-time with Mississauga First Nation. I spent much of my free time watching my grandson play hockey and a little bit of baseball along with my granddaughter. Family and unity are important aspects of who we are as First Nation people. In 1995, we opened our home to fostering children involved with child welfare. We would spend summers at our camp on Chivolo Lake, teaching many how to swim, fish, and how to live life to the fullest. Now, as my wife and I are getting older, we continue to provide respite care to children in need. As Indigenous people, we take care of our own, and every child deserves a child worth remembering. Currently, I'm a member of the Justice Circle, and also I'm a member on the Lands and Resource Committee. We listen and represent the people to allow your voices to be heard, but both on and off reserve band members, I really value the importance of listening to our elders as they hold the history of our nation and to our beautiful lands. We need to help foster and facilitate the process of building a great nation for our future. I believe to keep us sovereign, a sovereign nation. Leaders must lead by example and instill pride in our nation. Also, we must foster our youth and who they are as Indigenous people. We need to help build our future leaders with a sense of pride in our history and as a strong Mississauga First Nation. As an elected, if I get elected for council member, I would work collectively with Mississauga leadership to develop our community into a great community for our people. I would be open to hearing your concerns and how we can best address issues in the community. We must do this together. Miigwetch, Bamaki.
Thank you, Greg. Our next candidate, Frank Jeanette. Okay, so moving on, we'll go. I just want to let you know that Christina Jackpine, unfortunately, she's sick, so she wasn't able to make it, and she just wanted to convey that she would have liked to have been here. So that leads us to Ken. Kenneth, I'm used to Ken. Ken McLeod.
Commissioner. Don't have any name, but my friends in college called me Young Running Wolf. I spent a lot of time looking at this brochure. And I realized that many of these candidates I've worked with before, so I know I can work with them. I wanted to acknowledge the young drummers. The drum group when I was here. That was quite an experience. I was born in Blind River, probably one of the last generations to be born at Blind River Hospital. I was raised here in Mississauga First Nation with my grandparents, Yvonne and William Jackmine. Rode the school bus with many people on this reserve. Went to school with them, played in your backyards, all kinds of stuff. Lost where I was born with that, but I worked for Mississauga First Nation for 9 years as an infrastructure director. I learned quite a bit about how the government works, worked with federal governments. We got a lot of funding for our community here, and I say we because it wasn't just me writing these proposals. We worked as a team together, had meetings, and I think we had some success when I was structure director. I also lived away from the community at sometimes. Worked with the boys down in Toronto there, tree services for a bit. Came back to the community, and that's when I got the job as the structure director. Raised a family in Blind River. I have a son, he's in college. He's going to school to be a electrician trade. And if you're back on the reserve, I'm on several committees. Well, one right now only, but my new job as a water hub operator. It's a brand new program at the North Shore Tribal Council. So I got to meet a lot of our neighbors, 7 communities from the St. Louis to Sudbury. Worked with people east to west and made some great friends. Yeah, I want to acknowledge Kelly, my friend here. Yeah. McCollum's. My dad is Roddy McLeod. If some of you are trying to place me, but yet. Just want to leave it at that because I got too nervous.
Thank you, Ken. Our next candidate is Laura Mayer.
Bonjour, les femmes cortège Nicolas, Miss Mizagi, Michigan or death. Ninda sway Nokia. Guis Jonkozo Odewa Ganadi. Guizen Kozo Mandownani, Minoa, Donis Jonkozo Zabat. Jenenem Jonkozo Bobby Masqua, Minoa, Deep Singh Jibad. Gija Chinawage Vic Nipsing you Minoa Oscar. So thank you all for listening to me tonight. I think that many of you have heard or read what occurred to me during the nomination period. I don't believe it was right, and it follows a pattern of behavior that I have tried my best to address effectively and in a good way, both as a senior staff member and as elected councillor. I thank the many of you who've reached out to me to express your support and hope that with new leadership, we can begin to address some of these concerns. My mom shaped a lot of who I was through modeling her own community service. I still miss my dad, Doug. He passed away in 2007. And as much as I look like my mom, I have my dad's sense of humor. I graduated from Nipissing University in 2011. It's also where I met my partner, Brian, a member of Nipissing University, and a Anishinaabe teacher who's passionate about revitalizing Indigenous mathematics. Since I showed up at his house in May 2011 and devastated that graduating meant I wouldn't be able to spend any more time with him, he cooked me a meal and we started building our life together. We went to Justice of the Peace the following year, and to my mother's everlasting horror, got married after eating some fast food breakfast and scrambling to find a second witness. We have 3 kids, Leland, Petty, and Elizabeth, who saw them today, and they peace out to the Christmas concert. But I wouldn't be who I am without them. And they teach me every day why I am here and how I do and why I do what I do. I continued my studies at Osgoode Hall, and I earned my Juris Doctorate in 2015 with a focus on Anishinaabe law and chronicling Indigenous legal traditions. But law school is not what I thought it would be. I did my undergrad in gender equality and social justice, and it filled my head with thoughts of how I can fight for justice. And then I got into law school and learned that Canada's legal system is in place as a tool of oppression to Canadian sovereignty at the expense of Indigenous sovereignty. I started to believe, as I still do, that we need to practice Anishinaabe law, learn Anishinaabe, protect Anishinaabe land. Otherwise, what's the point? Canada's legal system is broken, but ours was never given the chance to flourish and educate settlers on what I firmly believe is a superior form of governance. That consensus building is important, decision-making power is not meant to be centralized, and living our sacred obligations to the land is central to our survival. It's not something that one person can do. It's something that we all do together, which is why it was so important for me to move home after school. Anishinaabe law requires community discussions and deliberations and a recognition of all of our gifts. And I love to watch Mississauga peoples living their gifts and taking up roles in education, music and art, social work, infrastructure, agriculture, science, economic development, and in all areas. Those gifts should be the foundation of our future planning, and letting those with those expertise in those areas guide what actions, advocacy, and programming should happen. We heard a lot of those ideas tonight from the other candidates, and I'm really excited for our future. Since 2015, I was the Miigwetch manager and then director. I think people will remember me as sending out probably too many surveys and holding community engagement sessions where I like to feed everyone. I did a project with the Mississauga Nations, delving into Anishinaabe practices of governance and dispute resolution. I drafted, consulted, and revised laws that were passed by Mississauga First Nation leadership. And during that time, I also completed articles and was called to the bar in Ontario in 2019. My current role is a senior political advisor for the Anishinaabe Nation, which means I try my best to support our advocates navigating effective ways to create structural change. And I hope to have your vote next week. I think I'm getting close to the 5 minutes, so I'll continue to advocate for what I believe is best. Miigwetch.
Thank you, Laura. Glenn Morningstar. I believe he's here, so, Robbie did come in earlier. Unfortunately, he has his engagement today. I mean, not his engagement. But he always has on Thursday, but he did leave his, pamphlets on the back. The next one, our next candidate is Thomas Morningstar.
Miigwetch, Thomas Morningstar Jacaz, Misagi Donjaba. I am Bridge Megwandada, so I am an reserve community member running for council. Thanks. So today I stand before you with a deep humility and profound sense of responsibility. So our journey as a people is marked by shared experiences, diverse traditions, and the strength derived from unity. In the spirit of transparency and accountability, I present to you a vision that cherishes our heritage and paves the way for a collective future. The essence of our strength as a community lies in unity. Together, we form a tapestry woven with the threads of a diverse cultures and histories. As a candidate for council, I pledge to foster collaboration, transcending boundaries, and celebrating the unique contributions each community member can bring. Let's build bridges that connect us, turning our diversity into a source of collective resilience. Accountability is the cornerstone of effective leadership. I commit to establishing mechanisms that ensure every decision made is rooted in the best interests of our people. Financial transparency will be upheld with clear channels for scrutiny and accountability. Our community deserves leadership that is not only entrusted with decision-making, but also answerable to each and every one of you. Transparency is a beacon that guides our path forward. I propose an open door policy where community members have direct access to information about decisions that shape our collective destiny. Digital platforms will be utilized to bridge this gap and ensuring that updates, policies, and discussions are readily available to all of us, while also ensuring our policies are regularly reviewed, updated to coincide with the ever-changing world we reside in. My vision is that our journey together will be marked by clarity and openness. In closing, I stand here not as an individual, but as a servant of our collective aspirations. I carry with me the value of unity, transparency, and accountability through our 7 grandfather teachings. Together, let us embark on a journey that honors our past, embraces our present, and charts a course forward towards a future that uplifts every member of our cherished community. Thank you for entrusting me with the opportunity to serve you.
Thank you, Tommy. So our next candidate is Evelyn Higginoff.
In the way Margaret Kani Bojan, Nakamekon, Biko, Evelyn, District Council, Chicha Pudum. I stand before you as a candidate for council. I was on council many years. I wouldn't call myself an experienced council. I experienced a lot. I'd call myself a seasoned counselor. So I've seen a lot of things happen, things change, and things at a standstill. I look at well, again, first I want to acknowledge the drum group that was there. It was nice to see those young boys with their mentors sitting and singing that Makwa song, and I encourage Jared, let's go sing with them. So we got up and we sang with them, and it was great to see. And when Brian was speaking, he spoke in a language, and I don't know a lot of the language, but I learned it through song or through prayer inside the lodge, so I can get some of his words. So when we talk about the things that are happening in the community, I see membership is one. Membership, I remember I sat on a membership committee, and one of the things that they talked about was one parent rule, and I was wondering where that's at and what's going on with that. And you know, we're the only people that have to prove our blood quantum or ancestry to say we're native. Whereas, you know, you can go to a Métis Nation and go and get a card for $100 and belong to the Métis Nation. So like, we're the only ones, and there's people on our band list that don't have no blood at all. And, you know, so what do we do about that? Do we do blood quantum on them to say, you know, if you don't, do you belong here? Do you not belong here? So there's many out there that have chosen to not even want to belong to Mississauga. So that's another thing too. These are all these things I remember hearing about. Housing is another issue. Housing is a big issue because I remember when I was on the housing committee, we were like millions of dollars in deficit. You know, and that just carries over and over. So I don't know if there's made any headway with that. Is it cleared up? These are kind of questions that probably the community needs to know or needs to hear. The annuities, I'm thinking about that money when Bob had talked about, you know, we're going to prosper for each individual. That's great. But what about those, you know, what about the social issues that are going to be coming up? What about, you know, the drugs and alcohol that's going to be prevalent? We're going to need more highs, and we're going to need more Bobs, and we're going to need more social workers to come and help, you know, those issues that are going to be arising with the drugs and alcohol. How are we going to do that? And I think as a collective with council, we can come to some sort of solution to combat that, or at least curb it. You know, maybe we need cameras, you know, just as we come into the community. I know during COVID, they tried to do blockages, but people were still coming in and going to those big cement things, or just to go get their drugs from the drug dealer that's bringing them in. I've seen that on our street. We have a lot of policy and procedures that that were made. And are they there to help the people, or are they there to protect administration, protect council? Those aren't written in stone. We can probably change them to suit what the needs of the people. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no hierarchy in our culture, in our way of doing things. I look at it as a circular view, whereas, you know, in Western is chief and council on top and managing. You know, I think chief and council belong at the bottom, because it's the people that put us to serve them, to work for them, to look at their needs, their problems, and whatever situation that you're dealing with. I have really strong cultural beliefs, and I believe that we need to bring. You heard that talk all evening about them. Nope. Talked a lot about the culture, bringing it back into the community. I have culture and ceremonies is my life. That's all I know. I'm a day person, and that's one that goes to ceremonies all the time and get the songs and the teachings and the things that need to be done for myself to live that good life. That's my goal. I always wanted to see youth and elder, one youth at a table, one elder at the council table. Our youth, Laura said it, but she talked about all those youth that are educated or sitting at the table. That's beautiful to see, because we always say they're our future leaders, and you know, we sure enough know that they are. And I'm glad that they went to school at an early age, because I didn't go back to school until I was 40, and you know, so I'm a seasoned educator. Okay, wait, I'm just gonna check my notes. When I was talking about the membership and when we need to stop letting the department, I heard Baby say it, and I heard other people say the department telling us what to do, how to conduct ourselves, and who belongs to Mississauga, who doesn't. We need to fight more that and be our own determination to who our community members should be, and get rid of the ones that have no blood in them at all. Again, anyways, Miigwetch for that. If you don't vote for me, vote for Max.
Thank you, Evelyn. Our next candidate is Sheila Niganov. Okay. Our next one is Peyton Pettawanaklik. Hope I said that right.
Bojo, Peyton Dijnakas, Nimkibinashi Don, Miswazagi Donjaba, Uchasagi and Nishnabe and Dow. Good evening, everyone. It's such a huge thing to be here tonight. Last term, we didn't have the opportunity to do this because of COVID. So I just want to acknowledge all the candidates for being here and sharing your words and your intentions. It's definitely not easy to stand up here and share a piece of your heart with everyone. So thank you for that. And I also want to acknowledge all the young ones that are here. This is the way it should be. Having our children in these spaces and opening up for us to be able to speak with our hearts. They're who we do this for. And it was really beautiful to see those young boys singing in our language. So we're all here tonight because we see something within ourselves that we believe we can contribute to the community. And it's important that our community is here to hear that from us, listen with an open heart, ask questions, and use this information to make the most informed decision. I want to provide some background about who I am, where I come from. I was raised in the community. I grew up here, and I'm proud to be raising my daughter here. In 2011, I briefly left the community so that I could attend Canadore College, where I received a diploma in the Environmental Technician Protection and Compliance program. Afterwards, I attended Nipissing University for 2 years, working towards a BA in honors specialization in environmental geography. And I'm currently attending Toronto Metropolitan University, working towards a BA in public administration and Indigenous governance. When I returned to the community in 2015, I began working in the Lands and Resources Department. And I'm currently working as an environmental technician, where I've had the opportunity to develop and implement various environmental initiatives. I think that I'm very fortunate to have found my passion at such a young age, and it's led me to so many different pathways, and I've been able to share that passion with the community through the work that I've been able to do. In 2021, I helped our community participate as intervener for the first time in the nuclear licensing hearing. And we must continue to work towards addressing the 27 recommendations made during that hearing, which aim to resolve our environmental, health, safety, and culture recognition concerns. And I trust that the Creator has led me to do this work. There was purpose in every decision that I made to get me here, and there's purpose in everything that I've gone through in my life, so that I can use my experiences to help me see things through a different lens. And I firmly believe in navigating life with humility, empathy, and understanding of how our strengths and weaknesses are all interconnected. When we look at the challenges that our community goes through, we have to ask ourselves why. Why is this happening? And as Anishinaabe people, we all have lived experiences with intergenerational trauma and how that's been passed down generations. But what we sometimes fail to acknowledge is the strength and resilience that comes with that. And right now, I see a huge resurgence of so many Indigenous people who are finally finding their voices and standing up to say that I'm not afraid, I'm here, and I won't be ignored, especially our women. I see the areas that our community needs support, areas that we can continue building upon to help improve our well-being, our health, and reclaiming our culture. I've been incredibly honored to have been able to serve our community over the last 3 years. It's been such an amazing experience working with our current leadership. This term, I sat on the Health and Social Services, Chinook Nagaywan, and Cultural Committees as part of my portfolio because these are the areas that I felt strongly about. But beyond my portfolio, I also took initiative to sit on the Council Ad Hoc Committee on a Community Substance Dependency Treatment Program, the Council Ad Hoc Committee on the Recruitment, Employment, and Retention of MFN band members, as well as the MFN Internal Nuclear Working Group. In 2021, I was elected to serve all 7 communities of the North Shore as Vice Chair for Miigwetch and the North Shore Tribal Council and Miigwetch, the North Shore Community Health Services. Just recently in September 2023, I became the very first woman to serve as chairperson. We're in an exciting time. It's been many years in the making that our past leaders have fought for the Robinson River Treaty litigation to be settled, and although it's not finalized, we can begin planning for the future, and all the diverse voices of our community will be a part of that process. The last community comprehensive plan was released in 2012, and this is a great time to realign ourselves to a vision supported by the community and leadership. We can't change the past, but we can move forward together, learn from our history, and use the tools and resources that we now have access to. We can build these amazing relationships within our community and outside of our community with other First Nations, organizations,
and allies who want to help us advocate for the systemic injustices that we still live with. We can reclaim our culture, language, and traditions to help break cycles and empower our. Miigwetch.
Thank you, Peyton. So our last candidate is Nancy Whitehead. I will be reading her speech that she prepared because she has laryngitis. So, Ani Bonjour, my name is Nancy Whitehead. Maiden name is Boyer. My clan is the Wolf clan, which I was told by an elder from Wikwemcong. My parents are Lena Chiblo Boyer and my father, William Bill Boyer. I'm a single mother and have a son whose name is Timothy. I have lived on the reserve for about 50 years. During that time, I did not live on reserve. I worked and went to school. My education, Bachelor of Science in Nursing and bank teller certificate from Canada Employment Center in 1986. My employment, I worked for the Bank of Montreal in Toronto as a bank teller for 2 years. Came home and found a job at Stedman's. With my time working at Stedman's, I then went back to school for nursing and worked at the Anishinaabe Health Center, assisting traditional healers and working with people who lived in the Toronto area and who lived off the street. Then I came back to work at Misogwi First Nation as a health assistant, which included working with the elderly, programming and budgeting. I did outpost nursing for a few months, then came back home to the Blind River Hospital to work and have been there for 24 years. I'm presently looking to semi-retire next year. During my time in the community, I have also been on the various committees of Lands and Resources, Education, Health and Social Services, Membership, Powwow, Economic Development, and Chinook-Nagawin committees. Also was a manager for the Bantam and Midget teams. I am presently on the Chinook-Nagawin committee and the trust. I really love being involved so I can bring my ideas to the table and bring concerns that may affect all members. I'm happy to put forth my name for the position of counselor. I feel that the experience I have has carried on for what I do now and what I feel I have to offer for the future. I would like to see a safer community utilizing our present programs and developing new programs to help our community. Asking our elders what are their ideas around these areas and what would they be and what would be our best interventions. Improve advocacy for members on and off reserve. Better communications internally and externally with our members. A good transition from past leadership to new leadership. Provide meeting regularly to the community regarding our treaty monies, annuities, monthly community meetings, a review of these strategies monthly to achieve these goals and other goals that may come up. Please support me as we go to the polls to vote, and I wish all candidates the best in their campaign. Chi Miigwetch Kenawayat. So that brings us to the end. I hope I did you proud, Nancy. So we're coming to the end. So we did have some questions. We did earlier tell our people on our members on Zoom to put their questions to individual candidates, but they have asked that all candidates answer these questions. And what we're going to do is, if you would like to send your answer to us, Cheyenne is going to compile a small report for putting it on our Facebook and webpage. So I'm going to read them out. So the community engagement and community decision. Please share your definition of community engagement and decision making. How will this include on and off reserve? We'll leave the questions up for you if you want to write them down later. The next one is, how are going to help off reserve members? And the last one is,
regarding the RHT annuities, if you are elected, how will you consult with the community? So those are the questions. If you would like to, like I said, answer them, we will be posting them so that our Zoom participants have their answers probably within the next couple of weeks. So with that, to Cheyenne. So Cheyenne has her email is Windamoglin Courtney? No. No. Yeah. Okay, she's gonna write her email on the board. So we have more snacks. We would encourage everyone to talk with each other for a while if you'd like, and maybe get some of your own answers. And I would just like to thank everyone for attending, and I wish you all good luck in the election. Miigwetch.
To all the candidates that are here, we have about 41 people who attended online. So, yay.